So if you had been paying attention to the YouTube channel yesterday, you would have seen us upload 2 Montreal Canadiens related videos before the Canadiens played off against the Bruins. And, yeah, that game wasn't great. I don't want to talk necessarily about that game in particular. I will say, though, Jeremy Swayman did give me a little bit of a scare because he is my main goaltender in fantasy, or at least in one of the 8 leagues that I'm in this year. Yeah, that's right, I signed up for a few more, thank you very much. But I was kind of freaking out because I almost lost my week because Jeremy Swayman started letting in some goals yesterday towards the end of the Canadiens game. I didn't end up losing, which is very, very good. So, yeah, Cole Caulfield, Emil Heineman, you guys can keep the goals that you ended up scoring at the end there. But if you had been paying attention to that game, you would have recognized that it was a pretty bad one for the Montreal Canadiens. I'm sorry, Cayden Primo, this guy is just not an NHL goaltender. I'm sorry, Montreal defense, but this was not a good game in the slightest. Mike Matheson was a -4, and he said himself that may have been the worst game he had ever played. The Montreal Canadiens totally stunk in this Centennial, what do they call it, the Centennial game or Centennial Classic? I don't know what it was, but it was like the 100-year anniversary of Montreal and Boston being rivals in the NHL, which maybe sounds a lot cooler on paper until you realize that the Boston Bruins have literally gone like, what, 14-0-1 against Montreal in the past however many games? The Habs have stunk against the Bruins the past few years here, and this game was no different. And with this all in mind, I wanted to articulate a conversation that I saw pop up on Twitter yesterday as to how down bad the Montreal Canadiens really are. Here's a tweet that I saw go viral from Dwayne Bennett. Dwayne is just a sports fan, according to his Twitter account. He's a Leafs fan, he does stuff with the cryptos, and he went out there and posted this yesterday, which was greeted with 25,000 views. The San Jose Sharks are already ahead of Montreal in their rebuild. Crazy. And I had to sit with that thought for a little bit, because my Habs-loving mind immediately defaulted to saying, okay, well, hold your horses there, really? Is that actually the case here? No way! And then I thought about it, and I was like, oh, yeah, wait a minute, the San Jose Sharks, not only are they providing some very entertaining hockey for the fans in the San Jose area, not only are there young guys on the team, and not only are those guys making a significant impact, the San Jose Sharks have actually started stringing together some pretty positive results. Now, sure, they are last in the Pacific Division. They've got 23 points in 27 games played, but they are 4-4-2 in their last 10. And ever since that god-awful start where they didn't win the first 7 or 8 games of the year or whatever it was, they've actually started to string together some entertaining hockey. They're above Montreal in the standings, and the most impressive part of all, when it comes to the San Jose Sharks and their team, is just how well some of these young guys are playing. Keep my wife's name out your gosh darn mouth. Will Smith has gone out there on a heater the past week and a half, and he's starting to score points. He actually had a pretty rough go to kick off the 2024-2025 season, but guess what? The Sharks, what was he, 4th overall pick, excuse me. Yes, that's what it was, 1 pick before David Reinbacher. He was the 4th overall pick in 2023, and guess what? The guy has 2, 4, 6, 7 points in his last 4 games. Not only that, but you have flying offense from other guys on this Sharks team like Fabian Zetterlund. Nice pickup there. You have Mikael Granlund, who has been one of the most impressive forwards this entire season. Macklin Celebrini has started to get goals going up on the board. William Eklund is scoring good points too. There's a lot of good, solid, earnest production coming from the San Jose Sharks team and the young guys that, when you think about the long term, when you think about what they can build, sure, I'm not going to discredit what Cole Caulfield, Nick Suzuki, and Slafkovsky are doing in Montreal, but San Jose is looking really strong right now. That's not going to last the entire year. The Sharks aren't going to make the playoffs. They're probably going to keep on losing games or keep on finding ways to take themselves out of the playoff picture, but Macklin Celebrini is right under a point per game on the year. If you head over to the Montreal Canadiens and you see what their team is up to, guess what? The only guy who's really at a point per game this season is Nick Suzuki. Everybody else is a pretty steep decline down, with the exception of, I guess, Cole Caulfield. Is that really surprising, though? I don't think so. We all thought that Suzuki and Caulfield would lead the team in points after all. Juraj Slafkovsky has 14 points in 21 games, but he admittedly has not looked all too great in other parts of the lineup this year. I get it, they took him off the first line for a bit, and there was an entire debacle as to who was the better fit there, Kirby Dach, etc., etc. Dach, by the way, having a horrendous season with a -20 himself. But ultimately, I see a lot more optimism and just good vibes with the San Jose Sharks this year than I'm seeing with the Montreal Canadiens. And that's all just like anecdotal evidence. I'm just going off of what I'm perceiving among social media and people going out there and reacting to games and players and stuff. But like, everybody's happy with San Jose, it seems like. At least the diehard Sharks fans are. Not to mention the prospects, not to mention Yaroslav Askarov, not to mention Sam Dickinson doing some really good things there too. There's a lot going on here that I think Sharks fans can be excited about, and they're getting a really big sneak peek into their future right now on the team. There was a reply on the initial Twitter thread that I wanted to show off here as well. Jordan responded to Dwayne saying, "It's going to look that way, like the Sharks are ahead of Montreal in the rebuild, when San Jose's last top 2 picks are in the lineup, and the Habs' last 2 top 5 picks are not in the lineup." And the Sharks also added in free agency for some reason, Stuart Brooks said. And the thing is, I actually disagree with that notion. I think there was a really good reply by Red Boy. For some reason, what do you mean? The Sharks' young players are flourishing around the vets we signed and traded for, while Dach and Slafkovsky look like lost puppies out there, surrounded by notable acquisitions like Josh Anderson and Christian Dvorak. Okay, maybe there's a little bit of a harsher tone and a mean-spirited nature to that reply, but I do want to articulate that there was some positive value out of bringing in guys like Mikael Granlund and Tyler Toffoli. Toffoli, for example, isn't really playing, I'd say, the best lately. He was alright at the start of the year, but man, has he really taken a back seat compared to the Will Smiths and everybody else on that San Jose Sharks team the past little while. But Tyler Toffoli, veteran guy, he brings experience, he brings goal-scoring prowess, he brings a lot to the table in San Jose, and these young guys are thriving around that. Not to mention the fact that Mikael Granlund, as we had said, I have to keep on giving props to Mikael Granlund. He plays all 3 forward positions, he scores a boatload of points, and he's involved in pretty much everything the Sharks do offensively nowadays. He's going to fetch a huge return in the March area of the season once the trade deadline comes around. But I wanted to propose a question out to you guys here on the YouTube channel. Is San Jose ahead of Montreal in the rebuild? Habs fans are not going to like this. It's why I titled the video the way that I did. But Montreal is in a pretty tough spot, and even if you go over to some of the extra numbers and everything, I mean, this tweet by Habs Chronicle, we'll end the video off with this one. It just kind of sums it all up. It's from November 27th, so a few days ago, but here are some troubling Habs stats a quarter of the way into the season. The Habs were, at the time of the tweet's posting, 32nd in the NHL in shots per game at 23.6, 3rd in goals against per game at 3.76, 3rd as in like, that's the 3rd worst, 21st in goals for per game at 2.76, 26th overall in face-off percentage at 48.2, 0-9-3 when letting in the first goal, and they were tied for 31st, which was second last in the NHL, in goal differential with a -22. The only bright sides were the special teams. Their power play was 10th, and their PK was 8th. Kind of funny how things seem to have flipped around this time in Montreal, how the special teams are the standout options here, and the regular 5v5 play sees the Habs declining and not really looking all too good everywhere else. So these stats, of course, you can pull up the San Jose stats, and it's not going to look too much better, but I feel like there's so much more optimism and a lot more hope and excitement for the San Jose crowd right now, at least, compared to the Montreal folks. Sure, Habs fans are still excited for Demidov. They're excited when David Reinbacher eventually recovers. They want to see Patty Laine come back. Things are looking great in terms of the long term, but for right now, even when you consider the young guys that are on the team, San Jose has been looking pretty strong, and I don't think it would be wise to go out there and dismiss that. So I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. Do you think the San Jose Sharks have passed the Canadiens in rebuilds at this time? Is this a fair notion to assume, or is it just building off of some short-term, non-lasting results that are maybe gonna turn themselves completely around upside down tomorrow, or in 2 days, or in a week or something. Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.